A nightmare is unfolding in central China. A year's worth of rain has fallen in just 3 days. 3 days. This rainfall has triggered floods, the worst floods in 1,000 years. And words are not enough to describe this disaster. Let me show you some pictures. Passengers trapped inside flooded subway trains. This happened in Zhengzhou, in the Henan province. The passengers were neck deep in rising water. They held onto the handles on the ceilings to avoid drowning. Take a look at this.
打电话给俺3姨，给俺3姨报警。这已经到大家不要说话，你们热不热呀？
别说话，别说话，一人都来到海滩寺跟沙口路的中间段，海滩寺刚走过去。
大家不要说话，你们热不热呀？
别说话，别说话，一人都来到。
More than 600 people are said to have been rescued from this subway. Reports say some people died too, and that's not something we can confirm at this point. Zhengzhou is often called the iPhone city. That's because it hosts the world's biggest production base for iPhones. Now it is the city of China's worst floods in a millennium. More than a dozen cities in Henan are affected. Reports say 25 people may have died. 200,000 have been displaced. These numbers are expected to go up. Just look at the devastation. People are being swept away by the flood waters. This video clip was doing the rounds on Weibo today. A person caught in the flood waters, seen stumbling and falling. Again, this is from the Henan province. Cars floating in the flood waters like they're fish. Look at this one. A driver in Zhengzhou trapped inside his car, braving the surging waters. This looks catastrophic, but it's not the worst. There's more in store. Several dams and reservoirs have breached their warning levels. The Chinese military has issued a warning. In fact, they fear that a dam could collapse any time. They're talking about the Henan Dam. It sits right at the center of China in the Henan province. The floods have caused a 20-meter breach in this dam. The Chinese military's assessment says this dam could, quote-unquote, collapse any time. Soldiers have been dispatched to prevent it. Meanwhile, there are concerns that the state, as always, is hiding the truth, that China is not revealing the full extent of the crisis vis-a-vis its dams. Conflicting reports have emerged. They raise questions about the health of the dams in this area. Earlier, China's state broadcaster CGTN announced that a dam near Zhengzhou has collapsed. Reports say the Chinese Ministry of Emergency Management also made a similar announcement that the dam has collapsed. But now, these reports have been retracted. Earlier this week, flooding led to the collapse of 2 dams in Inner Mongolia. The Chinese state media released some pictures. The floodwaters rose so high they broke the dam. What's causing all of this? Climate change is one reason, yes. Extreme weather events have been seen across the world, including in China. But in the case of China, there's one more reason. China's dam boom making these floods worse. This is what scientists say. They believe that China's widespread dam construction has exacerbated the crisis. It has made these freak weather events worse. How do they explain this? When dams are built, connections between rivers and lakes are cut off. This disrupts the floodplains, the areas that used to absorb water from the rains. They're disrupted, hence the floods. Experts have been raising red flags for years now, but China has not stopped its dam building spree. In the year 2019, China had more than 23,000 large dams, 23,000. They represent 41% of all dams in the world. By 2020, China had more than 98,000 dams, more dams than any other country in the world. Most of the older dams are no longer safe. They're poorly maintained. You might remember what happened last year. China experienced its worst flooding in decades. Around 40 million people in more than 24 provinces were affected. The floods caused damage worth well over $11 billion to the Chinese economy. Serious concerns were raised about the safety of the Three Gorges Dam in Hubei. It's the biggest dam in the world, the Three Gorges Dam. The birth of this dam alone flooded 13 cities, 140 towns, and more than 1,300 villages. A total of 1.3 million people were displaced. And once the dam was completed, it caused only more damage. In last year's flood in Hubei, more than 150 people died. More than 3 million people were displaced. The Chinese economy suffered losses worth billions of dollars. The numbers make it clear these dams are a liability. Why then does China want to build more of them? Because China wants to control how the rivers behave. Beijing wants to decide how the waters of these rivers flow. Consider this. China has built as many as 11 dams along the Mekong River. The Mekong River is the 12th longest river in the world. Besides China, this river flows into Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia and Vietnam. Thousands of livelihoods in these countries depend on the waters from the Mekong. But now these people are struggling. That's because China is using these dams to dry up the water supply and control it. With every passing year, Chinese dams are holding more and more water. And this is leaving territories on the downstream dry. Often it is said that future wars will be fought over water. And China, it seems, has already begun laying the groundwork for these wars. It is building more dams to control more rivers, even if that means the loss of lives of Chinese citizens. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.